Thank you, Balozi. My boss, PCS, Chief of Mission IOM, representative of the UK government, our friend David Burnham from IFAD, friends, colleagues, members of the diaspora who I noted. I was able to see a number here. Maybe diasporans, if you could wave your hands. I know you're home already. I know the summer bunnies. There you go. The summer bunnies are here. Are you winter bunnies? You're here. Karibuni sana nyumbani. And to our diaspora who are, of course, joining us virtually for this launch. Colleagues, friends, our team, good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. So I am as excited as the previous speakers to be here to join you this afternoon at the end of our multi-stakeholder consultative workshop that was co-hosted by ourselves, by the IOM, by the UKID, through the FCDO, and that culminates in the launch that we'll have shortly of the Kenya Diaspora Investment Strategy 2025 to 2030 and the updated diaspora remittance booklet that has been graced by our boss, PCS. I'm happy also because this is one of the few conversations where we get to have migration positive stories. Often when people talk about migration, it is usually in very polarizing language. On the one hand, it is usually certain countries telling migrants, go back home. Yes? So it is usually very negative stories of go back where you came from, you're not welcome here, or, usually very dark stories of people who have gone to other countries using unclear paths. On the other hand, migration as well, or diaspora stories, are usually often extractive stories of people talking about we are being asked to send money constantly at home. People only see us as remittances or see us as an ATM card, something that my clients in the diaspora speak to quite often. And the conversation is usually tuma na utume na yakutoa. All right, so I'm happy to be having a conversation that's not about sort of these horrible dark stories, and that's not about tuma na yakutoa, even though we are going to be talking a lot about kutuma. All right, so thank you, Aziri, for making it. I know this is something that you really care about, diaspora investment, and you're the champion for the diaspora bond, the diaspora investment bond, and looking forward to hearing some of that conversation from you. But for us, having the diaspora investment strategy moves our conversation in terms of how we engage with our diaspora to a much more strategic conversation. It answers the question, what are diasporas for? My enemies are succeeding. Okay. It answers the question, what are diasporas for? Or what is the promise of a diaspora? What can a diaspora do for its country? So let me thank the IOM, let me thank the FCDO, and Waziri, let me say, this conversation on the diaspora investment strategy actually began in a London board. I wonder if the FCDO team is possibly here. Are they here? Tamasha and Co. They were online. In a boardroom conversation at the FCDO, where a Kenyan diaspora had convened this conversation, we started to talk about structuring and systematizing diaspora investments. And we talked about what some other countries had done. And then we said we needed to put out the government of Kenya's statement of intent on how we're going to work with our diaspora in a structured way to really harness funds and to give them clear opportunities for investment. So FCDO was critical in that conversation. I want to thank IFAD, I want to thank GIZ, VIDU, Africa Institute on Remittances, and all government MDAs, a number of whom are represented here, on the work that they have done with us to put together this document. But to ask maybe the question differently, what are diasporas for? Or what can diasporas do? I often tell this story in our diaspora engagements these days, and which I think is much more fun than reading my notes. I tell this story. How many of us in the room know a friend or a family member who has a sick relative, or who's at some point had a relative in India going for treatment? I have been a teacher. I am actually asking to see hands. Okay, good. All right. So almost everybody knows somebody who has had to go to India for treatment. But did you know that the Indian healthcare system was built on the back of their diaspora? Their diaspora remittance, their diaspora investment, diaspora expertise, knowledge, know-how, networks. So that whole thing, that in many ways defines one of the big things that we know about India, is a creature of their diaspora. Story number one. Story number two. I had the opportunity, and I'm happy to see we've overtaken Ghana in remittances. But about a year ago, Excellency, I went to Ghana, and we had a conversation with the person who holds my job in Ghana, and we're talking about the impact of diasporas. And he told me, do you know that the first cocoa beans to come to Ghana were brought by a diaspora and returning home? He just figured, okay, I'm going to go and see I found this thing somewhere. I'm going to go and try it out at home and see how it does. When I was growing up, when someone was saying irrelevant things, we used to tell them, how does that change the price of cocoa in Ghana? I tell that story. Apparently, people didn't grow up in my house because nobody else used to say that, or I probably came from a very rude part of this country where people say things like that. But it built an entire important part of the economy of Ghana on the idea and of the dream of one diasporan. Okay? Third and final story. This one I'll start with a question to the students of history. Who can tell me a globally significant event that happened around 68 AD? 68 AD, 70 AD. Where are the students of history? Okay, where are the students of diplomatic history? My foreign service officers, I'm focusing on you. A little bit disappointed. Okay. Any guesses? Any guesses? Something globally significant that happened in 68, 70 AD. Nobody? Yes, in the back, Warutere? I'm sorry? The destruction of what? The first temple. So you get half the mark. But it was the invasion of Jerusalem, right? And the sacking of Jerusalem. Jerusalem was taken by the Romans at the time, yes? And from that year until which year did we eventually have the return of the state of Israel? This one I'll be very disappointed if you can't tell me. When did we have the state of Israel reorganizing itself? 1948. How is it possible that you can completely overrun a country, take its people away, and 2,000 years later, restart? Because the idea of nationhood, the idea of their culture, their faith, their customs, their dreams and aspirations continued forever for 2,000 years in the diaspora. That is the power of diaspora. Diasporas are able to carry dreams, aspirations, ideas, even nationhood in the dispersion, and then be able to rebirth an idea, a state, a nation. So that is who we are talking about, and that is a group that we want to serve. That is a group that we seek to serve, and that is a group that we know by having a clear and structured conversation with, we can change the trajectory of this country, we can embed national development, and we can we can basically do great things. So I know that we've talked about the DIS being anchored on 4 strategic pillars: building trust and enhancing investments, expanding investment alternatives, and enhancing awareness, and improving the business environment. And Okusimba, for example, talked to us about how we are doing that, and talked about the Diaspora Investment Support Office and so on. So as we do this, and as we think about safe and clear ways of sending money home, I want us to have the broader idea of what diasporas can do. What is the dream of the diaspora? What is this thing that hasn't been tapped into, that can build entire economies, can build entire economies, whether in agriculture or in health, or that can rebirth entire nations? This is the idea I want to leave with you in your imagination as I invite my boss, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and CES for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. Please let's put our hands together as we invite Waziri Mkuu. Asanteni sana.